today we're having some Dutch lesson.
Almost. It's between two Dutch players. But today I'd like to show you an interesting game that had very instructive theory and middle gameplay. It's not going to be in the Dutch, it's going to be in the French.
Okay.
So it's a game I discovered because it was nominated Game of the Day yesterday on this like random website, chessgames.com. But it comes from 2006, which is why it was interesting that it got
Mhm.
nominated just today. But I thought it was a really good game to share, and there's a lot to learn from it in the middle game and the opening.
Okay, perfect. I'm curious. So for you at home, check out the game yourself. It's below in the article, and yeah, everything else you need to know is also in the link below the YouTube video. All right. So French means e4 and e6.
Yeah.
And
And it
now,
was between two Dutch players, so that's why
yes,
you thought.
that's why I saw it and sneakily saw that. So, is it going to be something crazy or something normal or something modern?
It's gonna be one of the main lines
Hmm.
for anybody who actually like has played the French before. And we're going to see one of the main lines with knight to c3. So here,
Good.
in the game black played bishop b4, one of the main moves. Another main move would be knight f6.
Yeah.
And it's very common to get something like this, where white has more space, but then black is going to counterattack it with c5.
Hmm.
But instead, black goes bishop b4, and it pursues a very typical plan in the French with c5, which we see all the time. Now
Okay.
white plays a3, and we see a very common exchange. So black gave away a bishop, but made the pawn structure very vulnerable. So this, so far, is the main line, is the main setup. What do you think is the plan for both sides, and what do you think you would do?
Well, if I
Which,
remember correctly, me as an old French player. No, but so French is normally building up some momentum on the queen side, will castle quite quickly and just push forward the pawns, get the last minor pieces out. The bishop, as it is for the Sicilians, always a little bit troublesome, but yeah, there's always a way to get it out. Yeah, it's about a little bit of a fight of the center for black. And for white, there's a couple of ideas. So white can try to castle kingside as well, quite quickly, get out the last two minor pieces. But there's also this interesting move with queen to g4, which, yeah, I personally like. And it can lead to some drawish positions, but it can also get some good, yeah, straightforward activity for white. That's my summary.
exactly. So
Okay.
you were right on many of these points. So as black, they will try to get their pieces out. They'll play some knight to c6, knight f5, maybe queen a5 to target these few pawns, which is why the bishop gave itself away. And they'll try to target the pawn chain. And as white, it is good to go for this queen to g4 plan, which is exactly what happened in the game.
Hmm.
You could also go for something a little bit more defensive with just developing the pieces. And this would be good too. But queen g4 kind of goes for it right away and sets up a problem that black needs to take care of. So now the interesting thing is that black didn't defend the pawn in the game and played queen to c7, so kind of counterattacking white's pawns instead. But if they had defended it with, let's say, castling, then the game could continue with sort of an attack that would start to build up for white.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of different options here, but for example, go for something like this and just start an attack. There's some f4 moves, some knight h3 moves, and just try to begin an attack, and a lot of pieces are going to be helping with white. So this was another option, to go for the castling. Maybe there was something black didn't like there, or they just decided to go for a different line and played queen to c7. Now my question is, would you take the pawn on g7?
Yes.
Yes, and that's what happened. That's exactly why we went on.
I hope you didn't
That's exactly
just.
why we went on g4. You're already used to the trick questions, so
No,
you
but
know what to
yeah, I would, yeah, I
do.
don't, I think I know this one already, this line, so yeah, you can take.
So definitely take it. And now we get into an interesting middle game.
Hmm.
It's very asymmetrical, for both sides. They're lacking in development, and it looks a little crazy, but which side would you rather play on?
I prefer the white pieces here. I'm just not a French player. Sorry,
Not a
guys.
French
Sorry,
player.
sorry to
That's
every
fair.
French player. Yeah, I just prefer. Look, I mean,
That's fair.
white has this beautiful bishop pair. It has the open files for it. Yes, of course, there is the open files for G and H, but after all, this can be an advantage for white. The H4 pawn quickly can jump forward after the dust has settled a little. Black has to fight to get the minor pieces out to get the king a bit more secure. I like whites.
Okay, that's good. It's well, there is every time I ask these questions, it's actually around equal, so it is kind of a matter of preference.
Crazy, yeah.
But we are going to see this from the white side. It is worth it to be careful though for white to not capture like this because we're going to run into queen to c3. So there are some problems there. For white, even moves like king d1 exist. You saw it, it lit up blue. It even king
Yeah,
d1
the
is a
book
theory move
move,
here.
my
So
gosh.
so that should tell you about how like crazy these positions
Yeah.
are. Black, of course, has counterplay. For example, it's hard to develop this bishop because it protects g2. And yeah, kind of both sides are lacking in development, not really sure where they're going to castle. So that's what makes this middle game quite interesting and a little bit crazy.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I see the problems for white just now more and
Yeah,
more.
just
Yeah.
now. Well, white still managed to develop knight to e2, so everything is good. Of course, black could capture on c3. They didn't capture it because it wasn't necessary yet. But if they capture, then white can play something like f4 and defend this pawn that way and keep developing, develop the bishop at least, and put some blockades with knight d4, for example. But in the game, after knight e2, Black played knight b to c6. I don't know if I mentioned, Black was Jan Timman, actually. So he's a very famous player. With white, it was Friso Nijboer. So it was a very big fight, both of them on grandmasters. And I think maybe they had this prepared until a certain point, but I don't know until which point because it's one of the main lines. But I'm not sure how much of it was actually part of preparation. Now white goes f4 just to defend that pawn, of course. And black goes bishop d7. So for black, I think it's kind of more clear as to what they're doing. They're trying to castle long. But what should we do for white?
Yeah. Also for you at home, always stop the video and think about it for yourself or replay it on the real board or in the little board which is in the article if you want to. But I advise you to do so. So white's plan, maybe fianchetto to the bishop because then finally it can get out and also it blocks, yeah, the rook. Furthermore, castle and then continue with yeah, making some
Yeah, it
trouble.
can get a little hard to come up with something specific because we are lacking a bit in the development of our bishops. But I can tell you what the best move is. I don't know if anybody got it. It was queen to d3. So the reason why we're doing it is because, first of all, we're finally threatening to take on d4. Before that, it wasn't possible to ever take because of knight takes on queen c3. But now we're finally threatening to take on d4. We brought the queen into the middle, and this sets up a new plan, which we're going to see in a bit. I won't reveal it just yet, but this clears the path for one more plan. But queen d3 is an important move. Another good move was bishop d2. This made total sense to kind of, if black ever takes, just to get the bishop there. And yeah, some other ones, g3 worked as well. This is something you mentioned to get out the bishop. So there's a couple of ways. But queen d3 is what happened in the game, and this is the theoretical move that happens in all of these lines.
Okay.
Now black finally took, the knight recaptured, and notice how like the moves from both sides, they're always improving the position. For example, there was a plan to play knight b5, then black stopped it. Now white plays rook b1, and it's a very important quality in the middle game to always know where your pieces are best placed so that you know where to put them. So this rook obviously belongs on the b file. There's not going to be anything better for it. So it's good to put it there and to um and to set it up like that if you're, for example, not really sure yet where the other pieces are going. So we're getting to
Oh
the
yeah, and
tactics and the position.
I just wanted to
Very.
say the rook there has a quite cute thing to do because if black would castle,
I was just gonna ask you, what happens if black castles?
oh yeah, so the queen can take on a6, it seems, and win a
Exactly. You
pawn.
saw it even before I asked the tactic.
Yeah, because yeah, this was something which just crossed my mind. Which yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
cute. I mean, we just win a pawn or two even. No, do we?
Well, yes,
Yeah, we do.
if they take, we're
But that
going
looks
to
quite good for white.
exactly, we're going to win it. So that was exactly my question. What happens if black castles? That would have been a nice tactic, but you saw it even earlier. So that's why in the game, um, black played rook c8.
Now it's difficult for
Yes,
black
castling
to
long
ever
was
castle.
impossible. Exactly. And here is where White's plan starts. So it's kind of a difficult part of it,
Uh-huh.
but this is the plan that I didn't reveal when the queen first came to d3. What do you think White's plan should be for the rest of this middle game?
Okay, so here we go. So now this is this position, which if you ever have it on the chessboard, this is where you are thinking for 10, 15, 20 minutes, not much longer, but you should really try to figure out what to do here, how to do it. So one of my initial thoughts, and I guess this is not very good, and the grandmaster would probably not do it, but I would just push h4, h5, h6, h7 and see how far I can get. Because it's difficult to, it takes black some time to stop this, but then again, black might be too quick to attack the knight on c3 because it's easy to just, the next move is going to be knight takes e5, I guess. With a little tactic, white cannot really take
So
back.
you're actually, I don't know why you're doubting yourself. You're actually right with the h4 plan and h5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but
So
yeah, but I would have to think about it for, as I said, 20 minutes because it looks so, it looks scary because yeah, as I said, black
because of knight.
black can play knight e5, and then it depends on
Mhm.
how threatening it is.
Yeah, in such middle game positions, you kind of have to see where are your advantages and where are the opponent's advantages. So if you try to play on the queen side here, that's going to be tough because this is where all of black's pieces are. They're all attacking your c file, and this is not where you have a lot of pieces and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
advantages. But you have two more pawns on the king side. So this is where you should kind of try to find your counterplay.
Huh.
And this is exactly why the h4 move is actually correct here.
Wow.
So
Unexpected.
it's the best move. It's the best move. You got it. So you mentioned knight e5, which is definitely like it's a really important line to take into consideration. It's very forcing. So
But then again, it's like, yeah, it's
basically,
playing into white's hands, right? A little, maybe even.
well, it goes into an endgame. So
Yeah.
let's evaluate this endgame right here.
Yeah,
Forced
exactly.
pawn taking all the pawns. And let's say something like this. If black wants to keep a6, they're going to play this and something like that. What do you think about this position?
Well, now exactly. White's chances are so much higher to, yeah, get this pawn to the last row because, especially because the two bishops are just helping tremendously. And then,
Exactly.
yeah, the fifth row already, that doesn't take long, and we got a queen.
Actually, I think white is just straight up going to
Yeah.
win because there's not really any good way to stop this pawn. Like, yes, you could go rook h8, but then this just looks really, really good for white. They're
Mm.
going to, for example, just like as an idea, bishop stands on g7. And then I'm just gonna bring the rook somewhere here and just win on this side of the board.
Yeah.
Because here, like the rook is locked forever, the knight is locked forever, and like what even is there to do after that? So this is where you mentioned the power of the two bishops. It's really important. And I guess if black just doesn't defend it, we can we're just going to get the pawn on h7 and the bishop is going to help. And this is why this type of endgame, it might be hard to see it from the very starting position that we talked about, but without seeing this, and without no, you can see this, but it's maybe a little more difficult to evaluate it and to know that okay, white has really good chances here. But this is right. So you were right to not be scared about this one. And that's why this h4 move is really important and is key in developing white's counterplay there.
Very
but
nice.
It has one more idea up its sleeve. So after knight f5, white plays another interesting idea that was part of this, another part of this h4 plan. I think you'll get it now that I say that it's part of the h4 plan. But what do you think white's next move is? So this one was also very impressive.
So there's a couple of threats on g3 maybe. I guess the rook can just be established. But then again, so what happens? Okay, what happens after h5, h6, h7? Would we even sacrifice the queen because we're too sure we're winning a piece?
Well, h5, and then you want to h5 was not the move,
okay.
But I guess you were wondering about this line?
Yes.
Let me see. Okay, so you want to just get a new queen.
Yeah, I wouldn't get a queen back because so black takes d3.
Yeah, and then maybe king here is what I was thinking.
Exactly, and that then, but I think but the rook. It's very interesting. Oh, it's a beautiful position. There's so many threats out of a sudden, like a4 even, or oh no, a4 is not a threat. Yeah, we would have to take the rook first, I guess, before anything else. But it's
we would have to consider it. But I think black just has more pieces.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Just when all of this happens, they'll just have a little bit too many pieces. But it was a really cool idea. But I thought you already mentioned basically the right plan is to get the rook up.
Yeah, so then we go to h3 with it.
Exactly. So this is kind of what shows really good middle game play, is that all plans are kind of in harmony with each other and they're connected. So h4 move does not only create a passed pawn, but also creates this place for the rook. And you know that I really like rook lifts. I just find them really nice.
The
no matter when
maneuver of Svitlana.
Yeah. So this rook here protects the knight on c3, which is very important because black has been trying to get there all along and has built up a lot of pressure there. And now that we have everything defended, there's no more rook g3, no more knight g3, no more attack on c3. Now we can continue our plan with the pawn advance. And the pawn is already getting dangerous, so black tries something different. They try to play queen to c5 and create some more threats there. Now, my next question is, would you take on b7?
Would I take on b7? Oh, playing with fire here, huh? So, but where are the first threats here? Well, after taking on b7, there's bishop b5, and I'm not sure if we'll ever see this rook again. Maybe it's not bishop b5, but I don't know. I don't trust this pawn. This one is poisoned this time. It cannot be right. Why are you laughing?
because that's what happened in the game. So it is good to take that pawn. It's because now I figured out the strategy of how to. I always ask you whether you would take the poison pawn, and now I've asked so many times that there's no pattern to whether you should take it or not. So here you should.
Wow.
So good job to everybody who also got it right. But there were definitely other options, but here it is working. And what's interesting is that you also got black's reply correctly. So black's best chance was bishop b5. This is not what happened in the game. And actually, in the game, black made a losing move. So, but the one that you saw with bishop b5 is actually the best chance. And this goes on to once again a crazy line. For example, there is the pawn on c2 hanging. If black takes it, this is not that great though, because they're going to basically have to like lose that knight somewhere, and there's nothing really. You can give a check, but that's about it, and there's
Yeah.
no mate after that. And Black's best chance was to go for this. And the rook does look a little suspicious, but it's going to survive. And White is going to use their main weapon of that pawn. And although the king looks very unsafe, it's a game with like both sides having counterplay. So White has a lot of counterplay there on the queens on the
Indeed.
king side with all of the pawns. The rook is active. I mean, all the pieces are active. It's just the king that's it's a little unclear who is going to get checkmated first. But I think that's it's a shame that this didn't happen in the actual game. But this would have been really, really difficult to even understand for either side,
Yes.
honestly.
Yes.
So this was Black's
100%.
best chance because it's super sharp, super like double-edged. So this is why this was the best line. But White is still better technically, for, like if we're speaking objectively, but of course it's very hard to evaluate it. So Black made their last move in the game, which was a losing move, knight to b5. And now I want you to find after which killer move Black resigned and ended the game.
All right. That's interesting. What is the killer move here? Huh. So no. Oh, that's tricky. Cannot immediately find a killer move, to be honest. Unless takes. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Okay. Takes. That doesn't work either. Oh, blimey. What could it be? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, is it just simply I take the knight, bishop takes back,
No.
I take the bishop, pawn takes back, I take the pawn, queen takes, bishop takes check, and no.
Go for that endgame? No, that wouldn't be it.
No, I
There's
cannot
something
find it out. Sorry.
really? No, there's something really immediate. I'll
Oh
show
no.
you. I'll show you the target. This is the target.
Yeah. I mean, then I would have taken it with the rook. I thought about this.
And it's not taking it with the rook though, because you keep the rook there. That's the one attacking it. And there is a way to attack this target in a very indirect way. So once I tell you the move though, you'll say it was really obvious. But
Oh
once you see it,
no.
you see it.
Oh
So
no.
the move is, I don't know how many people got it. It was knight to e4.
Oh, okay, that wasn't that obvious for me. That's
Really?
beautiful.
No, it's no, but like once
Yeah.
you see it,
Yeah.
you realize it
Of course.
immediately.
Oh, it's a killer move. Oh, indeed. That's really
So
nice.
exactly, if Black ever takes, then there is going to be checkmate on d7. And if not, then, well, the queen can move away, but we're going to play knight to f6 with just the end for the Black king and the Black pieces.
Yeah.
So after this move, Black resigned. So this was a rather short game, but it had a lot of important middle game principles. It had maybe a new opening for somebody, and also filled with a lot of tactics in this very asymmetrical position.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Svitlana. Very enjoyable. Hope you at home liked it too. We see each other soon enough. Bye bye.